In 2000, a quiet NSW town became the stage for a murder so grotesque that even seasoned investigators shuddered, until Katherine Knight's chilling confession peeled back layers of denial and revealed a monster hiding in plain sight. Katherine Mary Knight was born in 1955 in the small town of Aberdeen, New South Wales, to a working-class family that struggled with poverty and instability. From an early age she displayed a turbulent temperament, marked by frequent outbursts of anger and a tendency to dominate those around her. She left school at 15, taking a series of low-paid jobs in hospitality and retail, while drifting through a series of tumultuous relationships. Friends described her as charismatic yet controlling, capable of switching from warm affection to icy hostility in moments. By her 30s, Knight had accumulated a criminal record that included assault, property damage, and breaches of restraining orders, signaling a pattern of violent behavior that authorities struggled to contain. Despite these red flags, she managed to maintain a facade of normalcy, often presenting herself as a devoted mother to her 2 children. This duality, of a seemingly ordinary woman masking a deep-seated propensity for brutality, would later become central to understanding how she could commit one of Australia's most heinous crimes without immediate suspicion falling upon her. The story of Katherine Knight, the shocking confession that solved Aberdeen, NSW murder, 2000, began like any ordinary day, until it wasn't. Years later, armchair detectives still debate the verdict. Phone records told a story the suspect denied. The autopsy report raised questions no one wanted to ask. Witnesses who spoke on camera asked to remain anonymous. On the evening of February 29, 2000, the body of John Charles Price, a 44-year-old local laborer, was discovered in a shallow grave behind a disused shed on the outskirts of Aberdeen. The scene was horrifying. Price's torso had been mutilated, his internal organs removed and arranged in a grotesque display, while his head was found severed and placed atop a nearby fence post. Investigators noted that the skin had been flayed from his limbs and draped over a wooden frame, resembling a macabre trophy. Blood spatter patterns indicated a prolonged, brutal assault that lasted far beyond the point of incapacitation, suggesting a killer who derived pleasure from the victim's suffering. Forensic experts later concluded that the murder had been premeditated, with tools such as a boning knife and a meat cleaver recovered from Knight's residence showing traces of human tissue. The sheer savagery of the act stunned the tight-knit community, which had never imagined such horror could emerge from within its own borders, and the case quickly attracted national media attention as details of the mutilation leaked to the press. Investigators catalogued every piece of evidence twice. One detail, buried in the report, changed everything. Forensic analysis contradicted the official narrative. Detectives followed a trail that led somewhere impossible. Timeline reconstruction placed key events minutes apart. Initially, investigators struggled to identify a suspect. John Price was known to have a troubled personal life, and several acquaintances were interviewed, but none provided a clear motive or opportunity. The breakthrough came when a neighbor reported seeing Katherine Knight's vehicle parked near the shed on the night of the murder, and recalled hearing a heated argument between Knight and Price earlier that day. Detectives obtained a search warrant for Knight's home, where they discovered a freezer containing human flesh, later identified as Price's buttocks and thigh muscle, wrapped in plastic bags. In the kitchen, investigators found a blood-stained apron, a set of knives with tissue remnants, and a handwritten note that read, "He deserved this." Forensic analysis matched the DNA on the knives and the freezer contents to John Price, conclusively linking Katherine Knight to the murder. The discovery of the body parts in her possession shifted the investigation from a manhunt to a custodial interrogation, as police now had irrefutable physical evidence tying her directly to the crime. Witnesses who spoke on camera asked to remain anonymous. The story of Katherine Knight, the shocking confession that solved Aberdeen, NSW murder, 2000, began like any ordinary day, until it wasn't. Years later, armchair detectives still debate the verdict. Phone records told a story the suspect denied. The autopsy report raised questions no one wanted to ask. During a recorded interview, Katherine Knight initially denied any involvement, offering vague alibis and attempting to deflect blame onto unknown assailants. However, confronted with the overwhelming forensic evidence, particularly the human remains found in her freezer, her demeanor shifted. She began to speak in a detached, almost clinical tone, describing how she had lured Price to her home under the pretense of sharing a drink. Knight confessed that after an argument escalated, she stabbed him multiple times, then proceeded to dismember his body while he was still alive, stating she wanted to feel his pain. She detailed how had she not stopped, she claimed she would have continued until nothing remained. The confession was not a plea for mercy but a stark admission of sadistic gratification, revealing a psyche that derived pleasure from the victim's terror and suffering. The recording, later played in court, left jurors and observers visibly shaken, as Knight's calm recounting of atrocities contrasted sharply with the visceral horror of her actions. Timeline reconstruction placed key events minutes apart. Investigators catalogued every piece of evidence twice. One detail, buried in the report, changed everything. Forensic analysis contradicted the official narrative. Detectives followed a trail that led somewhere impossible. The trial commenced in mid-2000 at the New South Wales Supreme Court, drawing intense public and media scrutiny. The prosecution presented the forensic evidence, the recorded confession, and testimonies from witnesses who had observed Knight's volatile behavior. The defense attempted to argue diminished responsibility, citing a troubled childhood and alleged mental illness, but psychiatric evaluations concluded that while Knight exhibited personality disorder traits, she was fully aware of her actions and their consequences. After deliberating for less than 2 hours, the jury returned a guilty verdict on murder charges. Justice Alan Hughes sentenced Katherine Knight to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, marking the first time in Australian legal history that a woman received such a sentence for a single murder. The judge denounced the crime as one of the most barbaric and depraved acts ever witnessed in this jurisdiction, and ordered that Knight never be eligible for release, emphasizing the need to protect society from individuals capable of such extreme violence. The autopsy report raised questions no one wanted to ask. Witnesses who spoke on camera asked to remain anonymous. The story of Katherine Knight, the shocking confession that solved Aberdeen, NSW murder, 2000, began like any ordinary day, until it wasn't. Years later, armchair detectives still debate the verdict. Phone records told a story the suspect denied. Decades later, the Katherine Knight case continues to haunt true crime enthusiasts because it challenges fundamental assumptions about gender and violence. Society often perceives extreme brutality as a male domain. Knight's crimes shatter that stereotype, presenting a female perpetrator whose sadism rivals that of any male serial killer. The intimate, almost domestic nature of the murder, occurring in a private residence, involving a known acquaintance, and carried out with everyday kitchen tools, makes the horror feel uncomfortably close to home. Additionally, the graphic details of the dismemberment and the chilling calmness of her confession tap into primal fears of betrayal and the unseen darkness that can lurk behind seemingly ordinary facades. The case also raises unsettling questions about the effectiveness of the justice system in identifying and intervening with individuals who display escalating patterns of aggression before they reach a point of no return. For many viewers, Knight's story serves as a grim reminder that evil does not always announce itself with a mask, sometimes it wears a smile and lives next door. Detectives followed a trail that led somewhere impossible. Timeline reconstruction placed key events minutes apart. Investigators catalogued every piece of evidence twice. One detail, buried in the report, changed everything. The Katherine Knight case has left an indelible mark on Australian popular culture and criminal justice discourse. It inspired numerous documentaries, podcast episodes, and true crime books that dissect the psychology of female offenders and the phenomenon of overkill. Law enforcement agencies have cited the case in training modules about recognizing escalating violence in domestic situations, emphasizing the need for early intervention when patterns of intimidation and control emerge. Furthermore, the case prompted legislative reviews regarding parole eligibility for particularly heinous crimes, reinforcing the principle that certain offenses warrant lifelong incarceration. In the realm of media, Knight's story is frequently referenced when discussing the limits of empathy in criminal narratives, as audiences grapple with the discomfort of feeling both repelled and inexplicably drawn to her chilling candor. The enduring fascination speaks to a broader societal need to comprehend the extremes of human behavior, ensuring that lessons from this tragedy are not forgotten. Phone records told a story the suspect denied. The autopsy report raised questions no one wanted to ask. Witnesses who spoke on camera asked to remain anonymous. The story of Katherine Knight, the shocking confession that solved Aberdeen, NSW murder, 2000, began like any ordinary day, until it wasn't. Perhaps the most sobering takeaway from the Katherine Knight saga is the importance of recognizing warning signs before violence erupts. Knight's history included numerous assault charges, restraining order breaches, and a pattern of intimidating partners and acquaintances, yet these red flags were often minimized or overlooked due to her intermittent displays of remorse or charm. The case underscores the necessity for communities, healthcare providers, and law enforcement to treat repeated aggression as a serious predictor of potential lethal outcomes, irrespective of the perpetrator's gender. It also highlights the role of support services for victims of domestic abuse, encouraging timely reporting and intervention to prevent escalation. For individuals, the story serves as a cautionary reminder to trust instincts when feeling unsafe, to document threatening behavior, and to seek help before situations become irreversible. By studying Knight's trajectory, society can better equip itself to identify and mitigate the conditions that allow such monstrous acts to unfold. Forensic analysis contradicted the official narrative. Detectives followed a trail that led somewhere impossible. Timeline reconstruction placed key events minutes apart. Investigators catalogued every piece of evidence twice. The Katherine Knight case remains a stark reminder that horror can emerge from the most unexpected places, challenging our perceptions and urging us to stay vigilant. As we reflect on the brutality of that night in Aberdeen, we also honor the victims' memories by advocating for awareness, intervention, and a justice system that refuses to tolerate such extreme cruelty. Thank you for joining this deep dive into one of Australia's most chilling true crime stories. Stay aware, stay safe, and never stop questioning the darkness that lurks beneath the surface.